Well, since Module 2 is all about groups and team level factors, we should in fact look at how decision making is related at the group or team level. And you see here this chart that shows advantages as well as disadvantages of group aided decision making. You can think about group aided decision making as somewhat being like just being in teams or applying teams in groups. There's some good and bad that could potentially come about from it. And so you have to be aware of when it's best to use group aided decision making. One of the advantages, of course, is things like greater pool of knowledge, greater comprehension, increased acceptance, and different perspectives. So we're arguing here that the benefit of group aided decision making is that it lends itself to more creativity, to more analysis, and perhaps therefore a better quality of decision making. However, some of the problems associated with that can come about because you don't actually have creativity occurring in the group. What you may have is some type of domination by a few, some politicking by some, social pressure being applied to people to conform. Remember, we talked about groupthink occurring, and then goal displacement, people actually using decisions, using that decision making process to get back at others. So it works essentially when it promotes creativity, when it promotes diversity. It does not work when that diversity is quenched by the process. But when you do use group to solve problems, to make decisions, you essentially want to always reach a point of consensus. And it says here it's when all members can say they've either agree with a decision or they've had their day in court and they were unable to convince others of their viewpoint. So everyone agrees to support the outcome. It does not mean that everyone agrees that this is the best outcome, but everyone accepts the outcome. Everyone says, you know what, we've had our chance, we've spoken our piece, and now we are willing to support this outcome as our group's decision. Okay? And that's what consensus is. One way to create consensus is through this concept or through this process of brainstorming. It's in brainstorming, essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as many ideas as you can. You're trying to generate creativity. You're trying to stimulate creativity by allowing people to think about things in very, very different ways. And that's what brainstorming is all about. Trying to get that quantity of ideas, trying to get people to think really, I hate the cliche, but it's appropriate now, outside the box, and that's what you do in brainstorming. And this is showing some of the rules for brainstorming. You want to defer judgment. So if you want to get people to kind of just, think wildly or think differently, you don't want to at the very beginning kind of, quench and quell their enthusiasm and their ideas. You don't want to quench their novelty. So you want to defer judgment until there is a point in time in which to evaluate. You want to build on the ideas of others. So rather than saying, well, this does work, but what about this? You want to encourage others to see if there is some kind of integration, some kind of ability to combine. Encourage, as I said, wild ideas. You want quantity over quality, and really be visual. Be visual mean that you can see, actually use boards and markers and things of that nature. People tend to respond better to visual displays. Stay focused on the topic because we're going into all these, wild streams, if you will. It's very easy to kind of get off course. You want to have somebody there that kind of makes sure things stay on course, and going back to that task role, if you will, that we know, facilitating wise, that we know where we're going. And one conversation at a time. Be respectful when you're brainstorming. Don't just blurt out and just kind of have this free for all. It's not like that. While there is a level of creativity, there is also some level of decorum. Some other approaches to gaining consensus in groups, the nominal group technique is very similar to brainstorming in that you elicit ideas that you want people to kind of, come up with alternative approaches to resolving something. And you tend to do it anonymously as well in brainstorm because you want people to not feel as if they're being judged. But it's a little more, I would say, methodical, a little more scientific in that you have the opportunity. You're not only brainstorming, not only coming up with ideas, but you really also are evaluating those ideas, and people are able to defend their ideas. They're able to try to convince others about the benefits and advantages of what they're proposing, and others can also argue and critique that. And there is an opportunity to vote, which gives a level of democracy to the process. So that's why it is a little, I guess, a little more formal, if you will, than brainstorm, but very, very similar. The Delphi technique is used when you are trying to come up with a solution, and you are utilizing experts, if you will, in the field, and you're using them to kind of generate ideas. So you kind of send out a survey, ask them their opinion, and then once the results come in, kind of present them with the results and ask them to evaluate and decide based on it. So it's really when you have, or when you require some type of expert opinion, that's when you'll use this Delphi technique. A lot of times when you're trying to make forecasts about situations that are very uncertain, you might want to use something like a Delphi technique. And we could not end without discussing computer-aided decision making. Of course, the reality is we live in a virtual world many times, and so computer-aided decision making is becoming more and more apparent. How does it help? It reduces consensus roadblocks by collecting more information in a shorter period of time. Of course, it's difficult to gain consensus when you're trying in a physical sense to get everybody's opinions heard. You're trying to facilitate that. It might take a longer time. When you do computer-aided techniques, you can gather a lot of information virtually. You can gather it quickly, and you can also allow people to feel again like they're acting in such an anonymous way, so that they don't feel that they have to, they're being controlled, if you will, by the group. There's some Chauffeur-driven systems where they kind of basically ask you questions, they kind of lead you to the solution. Or there's group-driven electronic meetings where you're kind of meeting, let's say you may be meeting on Skype, or a lot of these group network type, GoToMeeting.coms and those types of interfaces that allow for meetings, for interaction, for evaluation, and an idea generation, but through a technological platform.